So someone just posted a question. H is Dauda or Lifa. H is input, enter your age, credit in SSC, enter your credit, height, enter your height. Okay, if credit in SSC is greater than 5, it's qualified. Okay. Actually, okay. Okay. If credit in SSC is greater than 5, you can qualify. Okay. If 18, if 1.6 is less than, else pen not qualified. Okay. If you use an integer, it gives you output. Where are you facing the problem? Okay. There's an error actually in your program. If h is less than 18, if 18 less than h less than 25, actually, yeah, it's supposed to be elif. If it's going to work, but by convention, you're supposed to use elif. So if 1.6 less than height less than 21, well, your code is a little bit difficult to read. You should store your height variable, and then you should store your 1.6 in another variable. Then you will be checking against the variable. I think it will be more readable. You understand? That's why I told you that whenever you're comparing two values, please don't use the values straight ahead. Just create a variable and then save that value in that variable, and then compare against the names of the variable inside your program, because it enhances readability. Though this is one of the major problems beginners make. Once you get comfortable programming, definitely you're going to correct that one. But I recommend you start saving your values in a variable, and then compare it against the values. And then, yes, don't worry, we'll attend to that. Any other problem? Can I use two conditions when using if, e.g., if age and height is equals to? No, you should use okay, if age and height, no, you should, to enhance readability, just if age is equal to so, then and height is equal to. Let me straight over here to Brigham and illustrate. For example, let's say you have age, let's say you have a variable age, and you have the value, let's say 22, and let's say you have height, and you have the value, let's say 6.2. So if you want to check in between the age and height, for example, if age is equal to 22, then and height, right? And height equal to 6.2, let's say, for example, 6.2, then do something. This is how you're supposed to write your code. If age is equal to 22 and height is equal to 6.2, then you write whatever that you want your program to do against that. So next question, please. Let's be quick. Okay, age, enter your age, credit in SSC is equal to enter height. If credit is greater than 5, or age is less than 15, less than 21, or height is less than 2.1, print qualified. If credit in SSC is greater than 5, O H18. No, you're using a lot of O. You're actually repeating yourself. OV. You're repeating yourself here. You're repeating yourself a lot here. I think the best way to write your code is if credit in SSCE is greater than 5 or 18, then you use AND, so that the AND will be checking against the value on the left and then the value of the right. And it's going to make sure that one variable actually meets your expectation before moving on to the next next line of code. See, I recommend you try your possible best to enhance readability, because maybe you can be able to read your own code, but most of the time as a programmer, you're going to be spending time reading other people's code. So if your code is not readable, people will get bored reading your code, or finally, they cannot even be able to read your code. So please try as much as possible to get the habit of enhancing readability in your code, so that whenever people see your code, they can be able to read it. Just like in English language, we try as much as possible to be using the nouns and the pronouns and the verbs in a correct order and in a correct manner, so that other people will feel comfortable reading our sentences. So it also applies to programming. Always save your values in a variable, then compare those values. Use the variable name. Like for example, here, you're saying if h is greater than 5. So I think it is better for you like to define a variable h limit. So, and then come down, say if h is less than h limit. So you see, you're enhancing readability. For example, let me come to my PyCharm. For example, h is equal to 22, and then h limit, like this, h limit is equal to, let's say, for example, 18. Sorry, 18. So if you're writing your if statement, you can say if h is less than or greater than h limit. You see, this code is far more clean and readable. So whenever someone is reading your code, that person will just come and see you have h and you have another variable h limit. So this is the best way to do it. But what if you put if h is not readable enough? So this one looks more cleaner. So you guys should try as much as possible to be saving your values in a variable, and please choose descriptive names for your variables as you code. So if you use this kind of tactic while learning how to code, a long way in your programming journey. So let's be quick. Any other problem?
No, I think.
So I think in that case, I would like to give you guys like word of encouragement. Please do not try to like as beginners, we often make mistakes while we are learning how to code. We often run faster than our shadows. Sometimes we are learning variables, then we jump to functions, then we jump to classes and objects. Please, we shouldn't be making those mistakes. When I was learning how to code, I was so eager. I did the same thing. I made the same mistakes. But if you go far and then your basics are lacking, you're definitely going to be regretting why you didn't spend much time learning the basics, because you cannot be able to build a house in the sky. So you need a solid foundation for your house to be like stronger and last longer. So you guys should please try as much as possible to practice this basic, practice the basics, because whenever you reach the advanced level, and for example, now, if you go to data structures and algorithms in Python, you don't know the basics, definitely you're going to regret. It's going to be so hard for you. All these little functions that you see in these basics are the ones that are going to play a very, very vital role whenever you're learning data structures and algorithms in the advanced level. So please, I do recommend you stick to the basics, like for a month or 2 to 3 weeks. Once you feel you're comfortable with the basics, then you can move to functions, to object-oriented programming, and then to magic methods and the rest. So without any delay, I think we should complete. Let's say, for example, let's recap our yesterday's class. Yesterday, I wanted to show you guys an inline conditional. There's actually an inline conditional statement. Let's say, for example, you have a sensor that is reading, let's say, temperature. So let's say you have a variable. Let's say you have a variable sensor that is collecting value from a sensor. For example, let's define a variable sensor value and assign it the value, let's say 22. So you can be able to create another variable based on the value of this variable. Like you can say message. Sorry, this computer actually, message is equal to, let's say, sorry, this is not my computer. Actually, the colon is showing at instead of double quote and single quote. So message is equal to, let's say, hot. Message is equal to hot weather. If message is equal to hot weather, if sensor value is greater than 22, else, sorry, it's okay. So if you go ahead and print message, let's run our program and we receive it's okay. So this variable is receiving its value based on a certain condition. This is actually a one-line if statement. So assign the value of the variable as hot weather. Sorry, that's correct. That's a typo. Assign the variable as a hot weather if this sensor value is greater than 22. Else, it's okay. So let's say, for example, you have created maybe an IoT application. You're collecting, let's say you have a temperature sensor, you have connected your Python to a temperature sensor, and then you're collecting values dynamically from that sensor, whether the weather is hot or cold, for example. So you can use a one-liner and create a simple program that is going to be maybe displaying these messages on your phone. Let's say, for example, let's say you want to be collecting the data remotely. So you can use this one-liner in order to get your values. So, and yesterday I wanted to show you guys nested if statements. We covered if statements, but we didn't cover nested if statement. So I think we should go ahead and do that. Let's say you have a little robot that sweeps the house, and then you want to be controlling it, let's say using Python. So you can create a variable, let's say command, and then give it, take this window. Let's say you have a variable command, and then you give it an empty string. I'm coming, let me fix something. Okay, let's go. So you guys should be comfortable with while loop here, while true. So then we create a variable command, and then we collect an input from the user. Input, and then, sorry, we use an arrow as a prompt. While true simply means that this statement below this while block will keep on running, as simple as that. So if command is equals to start, if command is equals to start, then print, let's say for example, robot moving. If command is equals to stop, I'm not comfortable with this keyboard, sorry. If command is equals to stop, print robot stopped. And then elif command is equals to help. We're gonna go ahead and print sorry. Let's say for example, let's say type move move robot. Let's say for example type stop robot, and then type help to go to top menu, and then we can come down and say else I don't understand.
Yeah. The patrol. The patrol. The patrol. Yes, I did. No. We don't say anybody. We did hear till I come. No, not around 12. I enter around that 2 o'clock.
So please mute your mics. So as you can see, we define a variable command and then we give it an empty string so that it will be keeping track of our inputs. And then we define a while loop. We want this to continuously be interactive, to continuously be asking us questions. Whenever you want your program to continuously be asking you commands and be interactive, while loop is the best for you. So while true, so that it will continuously run. Then we change the command to be accepting input from the user. So if command is start, print robot moving. Elif command is stop, print robot stopped. Elif command is help, print this menu, and then else, if the computer doesn't understand any of this command, then print I don't understand this command. So let's go ahead and run our program. Let's say, for example, move. Sorry, I don't understand. Then it asks me again. Let's say start, robot moving, stop, robot stopped, help. Then I got the help menu to move, type move to move, stop to stop, help to help. So if I go ahead and type start again, I get robot moving. If I type start again, I get robot moving again as my output. So I think this program should be returning robot already moving. because the robot is already moving, I think I'm supposed to get a return that my robot is already moving. And if I go ahead and type stop, I should get robot stop again, robot already stopped. So in order to implement this manner, so we are going to create a variable, maybe a Boolean variable, and then this is where we use nested ifs. So I can come down here or up here and then create a variable started and then assign it the variable, so assign it the value false. So I can come down to my if command, if start, sorry, actually it's not start, it's move. If command is equal to move, then we can come down here and write our nested if statements. So in an if statement, whatever you put down here will be executed. So it doesn't matter whether there's an elif statement down here. So after the statement below the if statement finish executing, then it will come down to the elif. So you can actually nest, or you can use double nested ifs. So if started, then print, sorry, I'm not comfortable with this keyboard. Robot moving, or robot is already moving. Robot is already moving. And then you can come down to your program and add an else print please don't worry if the program is so long, I'll explain everything. Else print robot moving. So let's go ahead and run our program. I can type move, I get robot moving. Move again. Sorry, I'm getting moving twice. Let's see why. Okay, I did not delete this moving. I can come down here and started to true since my robot is already moving. So let's run the program. If we type move, robot moving. If we type move again, we get robot is already moving. So what is happening here is, first we define a variable command and we set it to an empty string. Always define your variables, please. Whenever you're changing them dynamically in programs, always define them first. Then we define another variable to keep track whether our robot is moving or not. Always set your parameters before writing your code. We want to be keeping track whether our robot is moving or not. So we want our program to be interactive. Then we define a while loop, while true. The while loop will keep on running as far as the condition is true. So that's why we provided a Boolean value that is true. So then we define a variable, we call this variable command, and then we assign it the value input so that we are going to be collecting input from our user. So if, I know you guys are comfortable with if the command that we accept from the user is move, so we are going to check before executing anything. If started, that means if this value is true, if started is true, that means if the robot is moving, then we print robot is already moving. If the robot is not already moving, we know that the robot has stopped. Then we come down to an else statement. We convert this started to true so that initially our robot has stopped moving. Then we print robot moving. So you see, we have nested an if statement inside an if statement. This is how you nest. Then the program comes out, the elif statement. Elif command is stop, then robot stop. And then elif command is help, then we print this menu. Else we print, I'm sorry, I don't understand this command. So we can go ahead and implement, let's implement another example for this stop command. Let's say for instance, if elif our command is stop, we can go ahead and check if this value is true or false. So you can use let's come down here. You can check. So if not started, that means if our robot is not moving. Let's refactor this variable. You can change the name of the variable in your program just by highlighting it, right click, and then you refactor. We refactor this variable name, let's say for example to moving, and we click refactor. So it's going to go and change our variables. So if not moving, as you can see, all of the variables have changed to moving. So if not moving, print robot has stopped. You put your code, print robot has stopped. So if command is equals to stop, print robot has stopped, else, so it has already stopped. Then we use an else statement. If the robot has not stopped, then we can go ahead and print. Let's delete this one. We can go ahead and say print robot stopped. So let's go ahead and run our program. Let's say move, robot moving, move again, robot already moving, stop, robot stopped, stop again, robot stopped. So we are not getting robot already stopped. So let's go ahead and check why we are getting this robot has not already stopped. Okay, so if we come down to our else, we are checking if not moving, print robot has already stopped. Else, so we forgot to change the variable of this started. We should change the variable of this started to false. Sorry, moving. We should change moving to false. Let's run the program and explain. Let's say move, robot moving, move again, robot moving, stop, robot stop, stop again, robot has already stopped. So I help, we get help. So let me go ahead and explain what's happening for you guys for the sake of the beginners. We define a variable command so that we'll be dynamically changing this value later in our program. And then we define another variable moving so that we can keep track whether our robot is moving or not. And then we set a Boolean value, which is false. So we want to be running our program continuously. So we call a while loop and then assign it the value so that it will continue running. Then we call this command variable so that we'll be receiving command from the user and then assign it an input function, which you guys are already familiar with. Then we wrote an if statement. If the command that we receive from the user is equal to move, So we want to verify that our robot is moving or not. So we wrote another if statement. If moving is actually going to return a Boolean value. What we are going to receive here is either true or false. So if moving, it will come up and check if this moving is true. Let's get rid of this one. If moving, that means if the robot is moving, print robot is already moving. Else, you guys are familiar with else, we covered it yesterday. Else, then you set the value of moving to true. Since if it is not moving, then the robot has stopped. You set the value of moving to true, and then you print robot moving. Then the program is going to come down here, elif, which belongs to this block of statement, not this block of statement. As you can see, they're in the same line. It will come out to the elif of this if, and then check again. If the command is stop, then it will validate again. If not moving, For example, if you print not true, you're going to get false. If you print not true, you're going to get false. We have covered that in our logical operators. So, where are we? Not moving. If not moving, then if the moving is false, so print robot has already stopped. Since normally we know that if the moving is false, that the robot has already stopped. Else, then you set the moving to false, and then print robot stopped. Then the program is going to come out to the initial if block, and then read this elif command. If command is help, then print, go ahead and print this. Then else, print, sorry, I don't understand this command. As simple as that. So if you guys are finding this, for the sake of the beginners, if you don't understand any concept here, you can go ahead and continue. So I think we're done for nested if statements. Let's go ahead and try another one. Let me check my thing. What are we going to cover next? Okay, we are going to cover try and accept. Sorry, I don't have a slide. Actually, this is not my computer. That's why I'm using this note as my guideline. So the final statement that we are going to be checking is try and accept. This is the final control statement that is built into Python. So a try and accept is very handy whenever you're creating maybe a production-ready program. Users are going to be making mistakes, so try and accept is going to save you from a lot of stress. So in order to write a try and accept, you write try, then do something. Sorry. Do something. Then you come down. There's an accept to it. Accept. Then do something. If error occurs. So what's going to happen here is, if you write try, then you're going to write some things that you want your program to perform. Then if an error occurs while they are performing this function, the accept is going to return an error. Instead of your program to crash, it will actually display an error to the user. And you don't want your program, you don't want your application to crash. So this try and accept is very handy. Let's be quick. Let's implement a simple example. Let's say try. Let's say question is equal to, let's say, for example, let's make a mistake. 12 divided by 0. We know that this is not possible. Then let's come to our accept block. Accept, sorry, 12 divided by 0. Print question. So if we go down and then go to our accept, then print there's an error. So let's go ahead and run our program. So you see, instead of our program to crash, we are actually receiving is an error. Or we can go ahead and print another message. You cannot divide 12 by 0. And if you run your program, you're going to get, you cannot divide 12 by 0. But initially, without this try and except, if you go ahead and print, let's say 12 divided by 0, and if you run your program is going to crash. Definitely, you're going to be disappointed. You're going to receive a 0 division error. Division by 0 is not allowed. So, but try and except is definitely going to save you a lot of stress. I think you guys are familiar with this try and accept. So let's go to another agenda. Okay, list. Okay, so next we're going to be covering list. List is a data type that is built into Python that you can be able to store several variables, like in between a square bracket. For example, in order to create a list, you define a variable container and then use a square bracket to create a list. You can add any data type into a list, like name, numbers, floats 2.2, strings, floats, numbers. You can add anything to your list. You guys should familiarize yourself with lists because you're going to be using lists and dictionaries a lot of time in your programming journey. So let's see what next. Accessing items in a list using square bracket notation. You can access elements in a list using the square bracket notation, just like in a string. For example, in order to access the first element in this list, we can just call our container and then use the square bracket notation, just like in our previous class we did with strings. You can just use the index of the item in a list to access it. So let's take that and print it to the terminal. Let's see. We get the first item in our list, which is name. Likewise, you can print the second item. You get the second item in your list, 2.2. Let's see what we have next. Yeah. And you can use range as well. For example, you can fetch item from, let's say, from the first one, let's say to the third one, just like we did with strings. If you run your program, you get 23 and you get 2.2. If you fail to provide, let's say, the first value of your slicing, and if you run your program, you get Python by default assigns 0 to the first slicing up to the third, but without including the third. Actually, we have 3 elements in our list. You can go ahead and say 2. And if you fail, let's say for example 2, if you fail to provide the second parameter of your slicing, and then Python is definitely going to assume this parameter as -1, which is the last value in your list. So if you go ahead and run, you get from 201 to actually we have a little values in our list. If you add another one, and then you get from the second, which is from the third actually, 0, index start from 0, 0, 1, to it start from the third up to the last one. So there's another method from this. Let's check. Modify elements. That is using the, yeah, you can actually modify elements in your list. For example, you can say container and then use the bracket notation and then use the index, which is the first element in your list. Let's say, for example, you want to change it. Let's say you don't want to write name, you want to write, let's say Luesa, for example. So if you come down and print sorry, I'm print container. You see, name has been changed, has been modified to Nuesa. So to modify, you actually provide the index of where you want to modify, and then the new one. Let's say, for instance, the third element, we want to modify it to, let's say 3000. So if we go and run our program, we see the last element has turned to 0000. Let's move fast. Finding the largest number in the list. Okay, n bracket max. Okay, this is going to be assignment actually because we don't have enough time to do this. So we have, let's move to two-dimensional list. Actually, sorry, I'm coming. Okay, we have list methods. These are very key. I think we need to cover them. So append, list have built-in methods to them. Let's say, for example, container dot. If you call the dot method on the container, you can see all the number of operations that you can call on them. These are all the built-in functions that you can be able to call on your list. These ones are advanced. These are magic methods. These are actually very advanced. They are beyond the scope of this tutorial. So we can actually, let's for example, call the append method. You can use the append method to add elements dynamically to list. Let's say list.append, let's say my name. If we go ahead and print container, if we run our program, you see my name is added to the list. Let's try another one. Container list dot, you can remove. Let's say, for example, list dot remove. Actually, if you open your bracket, you can see list dot remove what you want to remove. Let's say we want to remove 2.2, and then we run a program. 2.2 is gone. We got rid of 2.2 in our list. And there's another method. These are very important. Very important. List. Let's say, for example, list.count. List.count is used to count the occurrence of numbers in your list. For example, if I add another 2.2 here and then another 2.2, I can call the list.count method and then pass the value 2.2 and then run my program. Sorry. Actually, I need to set this to a variable. Count equal to list.count count. I get 3. So actually, container.count the occurrences of 2.2. So we actually have 1, 2, and then 3. So there's another one, which is insert, pop, and copy. So there's another one that is called pop, which gets rid of the last element of your list. For example, container.pop. Container.pop. And then if you go ahead and print container, you see the last element of the container has been deleted dynamically. So there's another one. Sort actually sorts your list, just like in your file manager in your computer or in your phone, you can sort your files. So this is actually the function to do that. Not supported between the instances. What is happening here? Okay, the reason why we are having, because this data type is actually different with the ones in the list. You see, it's sorted from 2 to 23 to 22. For list.sort to work, all the data types in the list should be the same, must be the same. So it's another one. Let's say, for example, container.reverse. So it's going to reverse the effect in a descending manner. So you see from bottom to top. So sort your list from top to bottom, and then reverses the effect from bottom to top. There's another important one. Maybe you're coding and you want to copy your container, copy your list. You don't want to tamper with your main list. For example, copy is equals to container dot copy. So if you go ahead and print copy and run your program, you get the same value. So let me prove to you that this is actually a copy of the list. So if I go ahead and let me go ahead and add a new value to the container, to the beginning of the container, container 0 is equals to, let's say, let me change from 23 to MC. And if I go ahead and print, sorry, I'm actually getting, because it is actually a copy. So let me delete this. Actually, I should be adding value to the copied one, not the real one. Copy.append, copy.append, print copy, and then print the real list. So you see, the copy is having Noesa, but the real list is not having Noesa. So I think these are the main list methods that we have. So there's not enough time. So let's move on to tuples. So tuples is another data type that is built into Python. Tuples are immutable, and you cannot be able to mutate them. Able to mutate them means once you set the values in a tuple, you cannot be able to change them. So in order to create a tuple, let's say, for example, let's define a variable value and then assign it the value a tuple. You can create a tuple by using parentheses, and then you can put any data type inside them. Let's say, for example, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. You can access the value of a tuple by using the square bracket notation as well. Let's say print value 0, you get 1. But the difference between a tuple and a list is you can actually change the values in a list, but you cannot change the values in a tuple. You can use a tuple, maybe, for example, in your program, you want to create maybe a function that no one is going to alter the values of that variable. Then tuple is your best choice, because once it is set, there's no way you can change the values of the tuple. No way. Not even a hacker can change the values in the tuple. So, for example, value 0, let's say value 0. Let's try to assign a value or add a value to this tuple. Let's say value of location 0 is equal to, let's say, for instance, 4. So if we go ahead and print value, you see 4 is not added. PyCharm is actually displaying statement seems to have no effect. Okay, let's go ahead and print. I get a tuple error, type error. Tuple object does not support item assignment. There's no way you can add it. There's no way you can add any value to a tuple. So that's the difference between a tuple and a dictionary. Though you're not going to be using tuple most of the time, you're going to be using dictionaries and lists. So, but I think it's good for you to know that such a data type exists. For example, if you type value and then call the dot, you see you only have 2 methods, the index and the count. Count actually allows you to count the number of occurrences of the items in your tuple, just like in list. For example, if I call the count function and then pass the value that I want to count as a parameter, it is going to return the value. And index is going to return the index of the value that you pass. These are all magic methods. These are advanced methods. They are beyond the scope of this class, though they are magic methods. But we have only two basic functions that we can perform on a tuple. So next, we don't have, I think we will even have to time, but I think let's just sacrifice some minutes to see dictionaries. We have dictionaries. So dictionary is another awesome data type that is built into Python. So let's say, for example, you're building, let's say, an application, or let's say a website, and you have millions and millions of users, and they have profiles. Let's say each and every user has a name, has an age. Let's say each and every user has a unique name. Let's say age. Let's say age, email. Let's say, for example, phone number. So it is not convenient for you to create 4 or 5 variables for this user alone. You're going to be creating millions and millions of variables, and it's going to be very, very tedious and not professional. So that's why there's this data type in programming called dictionaries in most of the programming languages. So in order to create a dictionary, you just create a variable. Let's say, for example, users, and then create a curly braces. You create a dictionary by creating a curly braces. Then you provide the dictionary's key, and then with a colon, and then the dictionary's value. You create a dictionary with a curly braces, and then you start with the dictionary's key, separated with a colon, and then the dictionary's value. Let's say the key's value, sorry. Let's say, for example, name as the key, and then Nuesa as the value. You can separate all your data with a comma, just press comma and then enter. Let's say, for example, let's say email, separated with the colon. Let's say noesa@gmail.com. Sorry, at gmail.com. Let's say, sorry, let's say number or contact, and then separate it with a colon. Let's say whatever, any number. So we did not use a comma here, that's why we're getting an error. So if you go ahead and print your dictionary, print users, and check your terminal, we get name, Nuesa, email, nuesa@gmail.com, contact, and then we get this. So you see, it is more convenient. You can just simply name this user 1 and then come down and create new user. Let's say, for example, user 2, and then you go ahead and do the same thing. You go ahead and just copy this, just paste it here, and then change this to whatever that you want. You see, this is actually a very cool data type that you guys really need to be familiar with, because you're going to be using them everywhere in your program. So if we go ahead and print user 1, and then print user 2, and then you run your program, you get user 1 and user 2. Let's move quick. So in order to access elements of your dictionary, let's delete the second dictionary. In order to access elements in your dictionary, you use the bracket notation. For example, let's say user 1, and then you use the square bracket notation, and then you pass the key of whatever that you want to access. This is the key, this is the value. This is the key, and then this is the value. If you want to access this data, you just point to this key, and then this data is going to be provided. Let's go ahead and verify that. So, oh, what is this? So user 1, name, Go ahead and print. If we print user one name, we get Nuesa, as you can see. If we print user one, let's say email, we get nuesa@gmail.com. So as you can see, you can access most of the data types in Python, you can access their values using bracket notation. But for dictionary, instead of providing the index, you provide the key of that dictionary. So, but there's another convenient way of accessing values in your dictionary, which is built into Python again. For example, the get method. So let's go ahead and print users. Let's get rid of this one because it's slowing us down. Users.get, and then you provide the key that you want to collect. Let's say, for example, name. And if you go ahead and run your program, you get Nuesa as well. So there's a second parameter to this get method. There's a second parameter in case the key that you're looking for is not in the dictionary. So there's a message that you're going to pass. Let's say, for example, item does not exist in this dictionary. So let's try and access an item that is not in your dictionary. Let's say, for example, age, which we definitely know we don't have age in our dictionary. And we run the program, we receive item does not exist in this dictionary. So these are the methods that we use in the dictionary. So for your assignments, since we are running out of time, I would like you guys to create, since you guys are already familiar with most of the data types, with the if statements, with the one-liners, with almost most of the data types that we have in Python, please, I recommend you guys to go and create an interactive application where you're going to be using while loops, for loops, where you're going to be accessing values in your dictionary, and then, or maybe you can even create a simple game or a chatbot that can be able to, let's say, respond to a user based on certain keys in the dictionary. So that is why I recommend you guys to go and do. Actually, it's fun to be using all these data types. Let's say, for example, let me just do a little program quick here. Let's say, for example, let's define a variable command and assign it the value input. So from the user, and then let's say enter a sentence. So for example, there's this cool command that is built into Python. Word is equals to, let's say, for example, command.split. Split, you actually need this command for your assignment. Split is one of the cool functions that is built into Python. Split actually breaks down whatever sentence that you pass it by using the parameter that you pass. So actually here I'm passing an empty space. So I'm telling Python that I want you to break this input down. Wherever you see space, just break it down. So let's go ahead and print word and see what we are going to get. Print word. So if we run our program, we get enter a sentence. Let's say programming is boring at first, but once you run it, it's the coolest thing ever. And we press enter. So we are going to get, you see, Python is actually returning a list. As you can see, it's going to break down this sentence that I just wrote into a list that you can be able to play around with. Let's say, for example, programming, there's an empty space here. So the split function is going to break it. There's a space, it's going to break it. Programming is boring at first, but once you learn it, it's the coolest thing ever. There's a typo a little bit here. So you can use this split to do some cool stuff with it. For example, let's let's say hello. Let's create a little fun program. Let's use 2 minutes. Name, and then we assign it the value input. Enter your name. So command is equals to enter a sentence. So word is equals to command.split. So let's say this hello. Hello, bro. Let's say you have hi here. Let's say, how are you? Let's say boring. Don't talk like that. So we are basically creating, let's say, for example, a chatbot. We have hello user, hi, how are you? Boring. Don't talk like that. So we are going to be collecting input from our user, and then we are going to be performing some tasks based on that input. For example, you can go ahead and print, let's say, forward in, sorry, let's change this to words. Forward in words. Forward in words. Okay, then we should go ahead and get what we are splitting here. Users get word, comma, and then finally we are going to come down here and then print, let's say, for example, I'm sorry, let's say print, okay, let's save this as a reply. Reply is equals to users .get word, and then we can, sorry, we can come down here and then print our reply. So let's run the program and see. Enter your name, enter a sentence, let's say cool, let's for example, hi. Okay, sorry, I'm getting a none. Users, okay, users.get reply is equals to users.get. Okay, let's see what we are doing here. Command is equals to command.split. Okay, user.get for word in words. Yeah, actually, we're getting an error because we provided hi, and we only have hi with Python is a case sensitive language. So if I say MC and if I say hi with a capital letter, I get a reply, how are you? So this is basically, if you add a while loop to this program, so the computer, actually you're going to be having a simple chat with this chatbot. So I said hi and I received how are you. So if I go ahead and add a while loop, whenever I say boring, the computer is going to say don't talk like that. So this is one of the simple chatbots that companies use in their websites, where if you have a simple problem that has some predefined answers to answer you, this is how they create it. But there's actually an advanced chatbot that uses AI and machine learning in order to respond to your speech, like using a natural language processing. It goes through millions and millions of data to see how it will respond to you naturally. So please take this program to the next level, add a while loop, and then create a mini chatbot using this process, please. So we have wasted a lot of time. So please, you guys should go ahead and ask your questions, please, because we are almost running out of time here. Questions, please.
All right. Thank you, Yerima. I don't know if there's anyone that has one or two questions. Let's take them before we call it a night. We've already spent above 1 hour. Probably that was because of the questions we took before starting. So please, if there's anyone that has any question, please indicate. We'll just be taking 2 questions. Then if we have more, the person will have to drop it on our WhatsApp platforms and we'll forward it to the facilitator to attend to it. So please indicate if you have any question. Thank you. Okay, seems like no one has any question.
Okay, so Dauda is saying the tuple doesn't really have applicability, sir. Okay, yeah, tuple has an applicability. For example, let's say in an advanced, let's say for example, you're doing robotics and you want to create maybe geocoordinates for that robot to follow. Let's say for example, you're given X and Y axis, or let's say for example, yes, you're given X and Y axis, let's say for that robot, and you don't want those X and Y axes to be tempered by any means. So tuples are best for you because you don't want anything to be tampering with those variables while the robot is performing or running some of the actions. So maybe you are going to be using tuple for that. I've used tuple to create such a function. Let's say, I think it was those days I've used tuple to create such a function. So any other question?
Okay, I don't think we'll have any more questions now.
Okay, please. Okay.
Dauda, unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Yeah, good evening, everyone.
Good evening. How are you?
Yes, fine. So, sir, regarding the dot command that you were using, all those times, the dot append, dot remove, dot count, dot pop.
Yeah.
We can only use it when we have list, right?
Yes. So whenever you can only use it when you're using list. If you could recall, while I was, please, can you be able to see my screen?
Yes.
For example, if I say the variable a and then open a tuple and then write 1, 2, 3. So if I come down and say a dot, I'll see all the functions that are applicable to tuple. As you can see, I only have count and index. You understand?
Yes.
So if I change this tuple to a dictionary, you understand? And I call the dot operator. As you can see, I have append, remove, clear, count, extend, insert, pop, reverse, and sort. So that is it. So any other question?
All right. I don't think we have any more questions. So since we don't have any other question, we'll call it a night. I will encourage every one of us to practice what we've learned so far. Probably if you should come across any difficulty, do not hesitate to call our attention while we ensure it gets to the presenter or the facilitator. I also want to appreciate you all for making our time to be in attendance today. And in a special way, I want to thank Yerima, the presenter. You've really done enough. Really appreciate you so much, sir. Thank you very much and God bless. Do have a lovely night rest. See you all tomorrow. Good night.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, please, I recommend you guys to practice tomorrow. I think it's Good Friday, right?
Yes, tomorrow is Good Friday.
So please, tomorrow, all of us are going to be free. So please, I recommend spending like 2 to 3 hours practice, because definitely in the future, this skill is going to pay. Please.
All right. Thank you very much, sir.